Okay, so just before this video starts, I just want to say, in this video, I am not at all trying to disparage Arizona State University or anything about it, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody from going there. If that's where you feel you're meant to go, then go. I am simply just relaying my experience in detail. It's not going to be like this for everybody. But yeah, I just want to make that 100% clear. Hopefully this is in focus. Hello my bros, I'm back. I know it's been a little bit, but I'm here to tell you about some things. Just about, in detail really, my first year experience away at college at ASU. So, I know some of you know, but for some of you who don't know, I live in Virginia, and last year I spent my first freshman year in college at Arizona State University, and I was also a student athlete. I pole vaulted for them, and I just wanted to tell you about my experience more in detail in this video. So, let's go! I'm just going to be referring to my notes on my phone here, so I'll be looking away sometimes. It's okay. I'm gonna try to go kind of quickly but still in detail, but there is a lot of information to get across. Yeah, so firstly, we're gonna go all the way back to August of 2022 when this all started. This is when I left home, and I was very sad, but I was super excited. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna go to a new state, and I love the West Coast, and it's so pretty, and oh my god, just all these possibilities. I was like, just so, yeah, excited, optimistic, you know, as I usually am, you know. It was a bit overwhelming though. At least the move-in was smooth, but it was just whole new environment. I felt like everything was like really intimidating and unfamiliar, and like the cacti were just like extra sharp and pointy and coming at me, and like the mountains were just rugged and like just, I felt like everything was like stabbing me for some reason, I don't know. Just because it's a new environment. But then, after I think it was about the first day of school, at the very beginning of school, my suite mate, thankfully, I lucked out and I got a single room, so I didn't have a roommate, but I had a suite mate. But she tested positive for COVID after like the first day. And so I was ordered, just like out of nowhere, well for both of us, to stay in our rooms for 5 days straight and get people who we barely even know to trust to bring food to us. I at least had groceries that I could live off of and eat off of, but there were a few days when some people forgot and I had to just eat what was in my fridge. But I'm like, really? We don't even know, we just got here. We don't even like really know people, and they made us just quarantine. But you know what? It's fine, it's over now. We got through it. It was actually kind of nice. And then we had our pre-training start for pole vaulting, and it was very, very hot. I don't care if it's a dry heat or not, or what people say, it is so freaking hot. I remember we had to do bleachers on the cement stairs out at the track, like runs up oh my god, it was so hot, plus the cement, plus 3 p.m. 103 degrees, plus you're working out, and then the cement is radiating the heat back onto you and the sun's beating down on you. I started to get like heat exhaustion. I got this like prickly feeling in my scalp. Oh my god. And then school started a bit more, and then the formal practices started. Now we're into September, but it was still very hot. Even though we trained in this little, they called it the bubble, it still wasn't very well AC'd in there, and it was still really, really hot, and it was a lot of sprinting and running. But then this is where it gets a little darker. I don't know. I just kind of started to fall into an eating issue. I don't want to call it like a disorder, but that's basically what it was. A lot of it was from just comparing myself and, of course, social media, which is stupid. And when it was happening, I was like, okay, you don't need to compare yourself, Colleen. I know the dangers of like this kind of stuff, but it just happened. Like, it just happened, and it got to me. It just really got to me. And so I guess I did have some body image issues, and I don't know, I would see these pro pole vaulters on their Instagrams and be like, I'm not as lean as they are. I'm lean, but I'm not as lean as they are. Because some of them are like shredded, and I was like, I don't look like that, but I wanted to. And so I thought I needed to lean out some more. Big mistake. And so I thought the way to do this was to eat less and to work out more, which was a huge, huge mistake. Terrible. Never do this, ever, because it declined very quickly, and you'll see. The other thing was, like, I just started to slowly chip off little parts of my eating. Like, I wouldn't have more than one serving for dinner, or if I was still hungry, I wouldn't eat anymore, or I wouldn't let myself have, like, a good enough snack, or even a snack at all, and I would drink just, like, water and, like, Body Armor Light, and you can't do that when you're a student athlete. And so you'll see in October, now we're to October, when we began vaulting, it was not so good, and I was really getting rejected by really light poles, like the lightest I've ever been on, basically. Maybe not since I started pole vaulting, but really, really light, like a 125, like 13 or something. And I was just really slowly, or actually kind of rapidly, descending. But my grades throughout all this were like really good. Like they were the best I've ever had in my life, surprisingly. But yeah, it was not so good, and I had started to get like no energy at all. Like my energy rapidly declined. So now we're into November, and this is when I really was starting to feel it. And I remember, this doesn't have to do with the eating thing, but there was a very scarring incident that I had to experience with a person who was very intoxicated, and I was basically left to take care of them, and I was told that they could die if I didn't take care of them right. And I'm afraid of vomit and stuff like that, so this was very terrible for me. I was shaking, I was like just absolutely scarred. And it's even worse when, yeah, you're told like they could die if you don't look after them well enough. So this was basically the first true incidence of me starting to really not like the environment of the school. But then that happened. It was fine. Thank God. Oh my God. But it was really, really scary. And I was like, oh, okay. I knew the school was a party school before I went, but I didn't think it would like affect me like that. So yeah, I accepted that part of the school, and I was like, I don't party. I don't need to party. I don't care if it's a party school. Every school is a party school if you make it one. But yeah, it was a bit more intense than I thought. Oh, but now we're on to Thanksgiving break, and I remember being so happy to get out of there. I set my alarm for 4 a.m. and I had like a 9:30 a.m. flight. And when my alarm went off, I sprang out of bed. I was like, oh my God. Literally, I'm not even joking. I like sat up like this. I was like, oh my God, it's the day. I've been waiting for this for so long, and I was so excited to get back home and see my family, my friends. It was a really great time being back home, and I remember I was just so sad coming back. I was so sad, and I dreaded it coming back to Arizona. So now we're into December, and I remember I jumped like a little better on the last day before break, but it still wasn't that good. It was really short. We only had 2 weeks in December because Christmas break is longer in college. But yeah, so I think it was on like December 10th or something. I went back home for Christmas break for about 3 weeks, and it was a really nice time. It was so nice. And it's weird because when you go to school in a different state, it feels like you have two different lives, or it feels like the other one is a dream. Like when I was in Virginia, it felt like I was back to where I was before school, and like Arizona was a dream. Or if I was in Arizona, it felt like Virginia was just like a dream, and it felt like I had two different lives. And so that was an interesting effect. But I remember I really did not rest enough over this break at all. I worked out so hard pretty much almost every day, and Christmas lined up with the weekend. So I think I gave myself like 1 or 2 days off before that, and that's it. But I remember before we left for Christmas break, you know, we have these team meetings, and the coaches were like, you gotta make sure that you're still doing stuff over the break because you don't want to lose all the progress you did in the preseason. And that made me paranoid, because I was like, I don't want to lose all my progress I made. But I forgot about the resting part pretty much. So I was going and going and going, and oh my God, it was exhausting. I was exhausted, and I was already burnt out. Yeah. And I remember I was extremely sad going back to Arizona. And that's the second hint. Like, you should not be loathing going back to your college. At least I don't think so. Like, you should be like, yeah, I want to go back. I hope. But no, I was just loathing it, and I was like, okay, I probably should not feel this way about my college. And it's just really hard being away, like that far away. It is really extremely hard. Yeah. Okay, but now we're into January, and I had to be back by January 2nd, the day after New Year's, and I was like, what? I remember I texted my coach, I was asking him, like, can I come back a little bit later? Yeah, that's another hint. But I remember I came back at around 10:30ish p.m. on January 2nd, and I came back to my dorm room, and I was absolutely just distraught. The second I closed my dorm room door, I went to the center of my room, and I dropped to the floor, like, weeping. I just wept. I don't even know how long, but I remember laying on my bed, too, just feeling so trapped in, like, I was in this prison, and I'm like, I'm stuck here for, like, 3 more months until spring break, but really, like, 5 more months, and I was like, I cannot do this at all. Like, I was in a terrible, terrible place, and I remember just looking at my ceiling, bawling, being like, I do not want to be here. I literally said this. I do not want to be here. Why am I here? I don't want to do this. Why am I here? I don't want to be here. And I just kept saying that over and over again. And I know it sounds really depressing, and it was. This was actually, like, the worst week of my life. The first week back from Christmas break. I think the next day, yeah, January 3rd at like 7:30 p.m., I got into a minor car accident, and the officer declared it was my fault. Although, in my opinion, I still believe it was a mutual thing, but I'm not going to go into that. But it was declared it was my fault. So I had a few options that I could take to not get points on my license, but one of them was to take like a 5-hour online traffic school course, and so I did that like the next day. But I remember calling my parents in the parking lot after it happened, and I just had an absolute breakdown. All of this stuff was just building up over the months that I've been there, and I was so lost. I didn't know what I was doing. Nothing was working. I was just like, why am I here? I literally said that to them, like, nothing is working. Like, pole vaulting's terrible, or has been going terrible. I told them about everything, and I was just so tired. So tired. The tiredest I've ever been in my life. Oh, and please excuse if you can hear my mom in the background. She's on a meeting call and she's a little loud. I just remember I felt absolutely just hopeless that week, or just even that month too. I felt totally apathetic towards life and everything. And I am never like that at all. I never feel like that. Never, ever. I'm a passionate, life-living, life-loving person, and this was not me at all. I felt I started to forget myself a bit too, like who I was and where I came from, and yeah, stuff like that. And I remember even getting out of bed and making it seemed hard and like a demanding task to me. That's how tired I was. I didn't even want to do that in the morning. And that's like the simplest thing ever. You just pull your sheets over the bed and whatever. But that's also how I knew, like, I was absolutely just burnt out. But thankfully, during this time, I found a church thanks to an organization called Crew, and they're all across the United States in colleges, but one of the people there, I asked her, and she told me about this church that they went to, and it was absolutely amazing. The best church I've ever been to, hands down. It reshaped my entire life perspective, like, on many important things, and it came at exactly the right time, and I know this was definitely, like, God coming to save me, give me strength, and help me get through this really rough time in my life. Because before I went to college, it was like the best time of my life. My senior year was amazing, and now it was just terrible. But yeah, when I got back, I had no idea at all how I was going to make it through the spring semester. I felt already done. I felt I needed a break from my break. I felt like I could not go another day, but somehow I did, and it was by the strength of God and the grace of God. But yeah, so I think it was on January, I don't even know, 7th or 8th maybe. I told my coach about my burnt outage, and I took a step back from vaulting for a bit, for like a month and a half. I came to practice every day, even though I didn't do anything, and I just sat, and I helped, and I watched, and I supported the team. During this month, it was also the first thought I had of transferring schools, because I was like, I'm definitely not really liking this. I don't think it should be this bad. And all of this, coupled with my eating and my nutrition, like my energy deficit, by this time I had lost my, menstrual cycle for a couple months now. And that was also a sign of not good things. And I was just very, very drained and exhausted and stressed. So it was not good. It was not good for my health at all. And my grades, very good. They continued to be really good. And I finally took some rest. It was so nice. But I just remember the team it felt a bit disconnected, and unfortunately, and nothing like bad on the team or anything. I love my teammates, like all of them, but yeah, the team just at that time felt a bit disconnected, and there definitely seemed to be some rifts between us, unfortunately. But it ended up good at the end. So okay, so now we're into March, and I finally in February, I think it was late January into February, I got scheduled with a doctor, and they took some blood tests, and I met with the team nutritionist, and she got my eating a bit back on track. So I started to eat more and more calorically dense things, which was good. So I got some more energy back, and I was finally able to start vaulting again, and I started to find joy in it again. And through all this, I was like praying and going to church, and I was doing my devotionals every morning, and really through this whole thing, I was latching on to God because he was the only strength I had left. Like, that was it, and he never disappoints, ever. He never fails us. It's true. But yeah, and then I just continued having doctor's appointments, and, you know, I had to get blood draws. Oh my god. Which I did not like these at all, because sometimes I would like almost faint, but I got better with them over time. So yeah, it was just so much, like, through school and sports and training, and like then you have doctor's appointments and whatever, and like your health, and it was just a lot to keep track of. But thankfully I was able to compete at my first collegiate meet. This was the debut at San Diego State University. It was really fun, and it was good, and we all took a charter bus there. It was about a 6-hour drive. Got to see the landscape evolve, and it was really cool. We went past these sand dunes in Arizona, and it was really pretty, and I actually vaulted, I mean, pretty well for having been off and having to come back and stuff. But you know, the things you can do when you have energy. I really forgot what energy or having energy was like. Like, my life just was drained of everything. Even I felt like my personality was just, I felt like a gray, empty soul. But then, oh, actually, it was before the San Diego meet. We had spring break, and it was a beautiful time. But I remember it was like the worst coming back home still. I think I cried pretty much the whole flight home, and that's when I really realized, like, I should not be like this again. And it's like a 4.5 hour flight. That's a long time to be crying. I know it probably wasn't the whole time, but it was like most of the time. But yeah, I also during this time really started to consider transferring. Just things started turning in my head, and I was praying on it, and I think God started to just call me and, you know, give me some ideas for some different places. And I remember one university stuck out in my mind, and it was Liberty. I was walking to practice one day, I remember it so clearly, and I was like, why don't I go there? Because now I became a very strong Christian. I was already a strong Christian, but now I'm like a really strong Christian during my time in Arizona, and I thank Arizona for that, in that experience. But yeah, it stuck out in my mind. I was like, it like stuck out. Like, I don't know, it was like a light around it or something. And I was like, it's 2.5 hours away from home. It's Christian. They have pole vaulting. And my degree that I wanted, which was film. So I was like, it's perfect. I was really like, it's perfect. And that's when I really started to consider it. And I was like, can this really happen? And the answer was yes. But yeah, during this time also in March, I was like, okay, I really don't like this environment here. Like, the social aspect too was really party centered, and I didn't realize it would be that strong. And I'm not saying I didn't meet anybody or any friends. Like, I did. I have a few good friends from Arizona, but I just felt really isolated and like left out, and I felt like I was out of place. Like, I didn't belong there, and like it just wasn't my thing. I just really didn't like the environment. I really felt lonely and sad a lot of the time, and I just realized my life just became really, just empty, lonely. Maybe not as empty, but I felt empty on the inside. I felt lonely and sad and like lost, unfulfilled. Now we're into April. So I continued improving in my vaulting, and my grades were still great, and this was actually like the last month of school, which was very exciting. And I still felt very lonely. I would spend a few nights sometimes just crying in my room alone. And I know, it just sounds so sad, and it was. And it was sad because I was comparing my life now to what it was. My life was so full and full of joy and love and happiness, and now it felt like it had devolved into loneliness. And the thing was that I really prioritized my studies, so I would do so much schoolwork. And it was a lot of schoolwork. That's all I felt I could do, too, because I didn't really have time to do anything else except for school and vaulting. And I just sometimes I also felt like I didn't want to go anywhere because I didn't like it there. So I spent so much time in my room and by myself. I just felt like I had to, I don't know. But my vaulting got better, my energy got better, I gained some healthy weight back, which was really good. And then about mid-April, we had a meet scheduled in Baylor, and they were going to fly all of us down, and I was going to go with. And then the day of that we were supposed to leave, at like 3 a.m., I woke up dying. The night before, I had really bad like throat and chest pain, but I thought it was really bad allergies because allergens were high there. But the next day, it just got so much worse, and I woke up at 3 a.m., I had a fever, and my body was aching. I just felt terrible. And yeah, of course, the morning of we were supposed to leave, I was very excited. I was like, I'm gonna get to fly with the team and go to Baylor. I wanted to go to Baylor. It was a really nice school, and I was just so excited, and I felt ready. But yeah, I got sick. I got a really, really bad cough. It was really bad, like terrible and painful. And then I got pink eye like a couple days into it, and it was terrible. I have pictures of green stuff oozing out of my eye. It was disgusting. And then I got an ear infection. I literally was half deaf. Literally, I could not hear like anything out of this ear. If I went like this and I opened it, it was the same thing. Like, I was like half deaf. So I had that for like almost 2 weeks, maybe 2.5. So I had to get antibiotics, more doctor's appointments. I had to go back like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times. I don't know. I had to miss that Baylor meet. So after that, I recovered a little bit, and I started to get ready for our last meet, which was at the end of April, on April 29th. Oh, and I got news, which was a total bombshell, about 2 to 3 weeks before things were ending, that basically everybody was transferring or leaving next year, including my coach. Only one girl and one guy had to stay because of their academics, but there were no plans for a replacement of a coach or anything like that. So I was like, oh, okay. Guess I'm not the only one, right? Okay, so I ran into a bit of a mishap while editing. I was recording at one point, and then my SD card filled up in my camera, so it didn't capture all of the footage I needed it to capture. So now I'm coming back in a different robe and re-recording the footage that got lost or did not record. But to resume, I was talking about how I figured out or learned, like right before school was ending, that everybody was like transferring away. But honestly, this felt kind of like a relief. Like God had been arranging my exit, and that I was like allowed to leave, like I had permission to leave. So it was actually, yeah, a bit of a relief, and it was kind of nice. Okay, so now we're moving into the end of April when we had our last meet, and this was at the University of Arizona, and it was hot. It was bright sun, like 98, and then you're on that track and it feels just even hotter. But yeah, it's Arizona. You get used to it. It was fine. It was fine. And my mom actually flew out to come and watch me and just hang out for the week before we moved back, and she was just gonna help me like start to gradually pack things for our road trip home because we had to drive all my stuff back. I'll get into that later. But she came to watch, and it was so nice. And then one of my friends also came down to watch too. And it was very fun. I jumped pretty well. It was season's best, but it was still not higher than high school or anything. And then that was done. So later that week, my dad also flew in to help me start to pack up everything. And during that last week, it was actually very fun. I did a lot of fun things. It ended very well. Finals were done, and I did well on my finals, which was really good. I was really thankful for that. But yeah, I went to Sedona with one of my friends, and then I just hung out with my mom and went to the pool, and just had a good, nice time. It was a nice way to end everything. And I wrote letters for my teammates and my friends, and I gave them to them, and we all, said goodbye and hugged each other, So it was actually good. It ended on a high note, which I was really glad about. So yeah, then we got all my stuff packed up and we headed back to Virginia. We did it in 6 days in 5 nights. It's a bit more of a leisurely pace, but still, it is a long way to go, and you really realize how far away you are when you have to drive. It was 2,700 something miles. We drove across country, and it was so cool to see how the landscape changed and evolved. And it's just crazy to think, like, all the roads connect from there to there. Like, that is crazy to think about. But yeah, it was a very fun and reflective, sort of meditative trip back, since you're just on the road all day. And you really get to think about things and just process things. It was really healing. But yeah, now we're into early May, and actually up until now, which is right now it's July 31st, and I can't believe tomorrow is August already. Like, what? This summer has just flown by. It's been a really, really great summer. Like, honestly, I've really just been taking a break. I've still been doing a little bit of working out here and there, but more of just for healing and maintenance purposes. And I've been truly resting and just reflecting, rejuvenating, and it's been great, and I'll continue to do that. And I've just been hanging out with my friends and my family who I've missed so much, and I've just been loving, laughing, living, and I feel much better. I feel very good about things. I just went down on a tour a couple days ago to Liberty, because I hadn't officially toured the place. I had just been there for track meets and stuff, so I was really familiar with the campus. But we went on like a true tour, and oh my god, I think I love it even more now that I know more about it. But yeah, I'm just really, really excited, and I can't wait to see how this year goes, and I also hope that all of your years also go really well. I'm just excited, and I feel good about things. And now I just really see and am in a place of gratitude, true gratitude for the valley that God had to take me through, that He made me go to Arizona, because He really made me realize a lot of things in my life that needed to be just upended and just transformed, because a lot of my life perspectives were not right, I would say. A lot of things I did weren't what God's will was for me. He really made me realize a lot of things. I'll put it that way. And you can listen to my podcast on that, actually. I just uploaded it on July 16th. If you want to hear more about that. But yeah, it was like kintsugi, you know, the Japanese art where they take like a shattered piece of pottery or just anything and then they rekindle it with gold. That is what it was like. And it's amazing because a couple months before I went to Arizona, I prayed for God to break me, which it sounds bad, but you know, you want Him to break you so He can restore you even better and be closer to Him after the breakage, and He answered that. And I really realized He was making this prayer come true during my lowest point in like January, and I was like, oh my God, God, you're answering my prayer, you're breaking me. And now I just see I am so transformed, and I just love Him so much now. And now I'm just dedicating my whole life to Him. It's an amazing thing, and I'm so glad He made me go to Arizona. Just so glad. Sometimes you need the literal and figurative valley. Actually, we do need them. They're necessary. And I see everything now. I see how it has just reformed me. But yes, that is my main takeaway from Arizona. My other takeaway is that the reason I really went there too was, well, they had the pole vaulting in the film, but I was also thinking, if I don't go and give this a shot, I'm gonna regret it. And I'm always gonna be thinking, like, what if I didn't go? Like, what would have happened, you know? So I had to give it a shot. And I did. And now I know, and that door is closed now, what it was like. And now I don't have any regrets or any thoughts lurking in my mind. Because that would have, like, driven me crazy for my life. And now I don't need to wonder anymore. So, all good now. But yes, those are my two main takeaways. And I really want you guys to know your true worth, what it's in. And I just really want you to know how freaking much God loves you, because that was a huge realization for me, to really truly know this and to see how it just blows everything else out of the water. Like, know that your worth is in Him and Him only, and His love for you, and all of your other problems or worries and everything else, you'll never be free of problems in life, even if you're a Christian. That's a big misunderstanding that people get wrong all the time. Like, life will still be life, but it'll be so much happier because you'll be able to have the strength and be able to cope with it, and with God, He'll carry you through it. And you won't feel the burden to need to take everything on your own, because you know that you alone cannot do it. So God takes all that off of you, and he just carries you through. And it always works out, and you don't need to worry. But yes, I just want you guys to know that. Thank you so very much for listening to me, bros. And I'm so grateful that I have you and I can talk with you on this platform. But yes, I hope that maybe some of this resonated with you. Maybe you got something out of it, I hope. Or you just had a good entertaining time listening to my struggles. As well as triumphs, but yeah, I just hope this is a nice video for you. And I hope that you have an extraordinary day or night or week and month and year in life. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and listening.